Alchemy is not a hidden, obscure science. Alchemy is the science of inner transmutation, the transmutation of the human consciousness, and through the transmutation of the human consciousness, the alchemical transformation of the human life. What we would like to do in this video is to give you some elements to associate the different traditions and methodologies of looking at alchemy with this inner, immutable science of the human transmutation. We can start seeing alchemy in the transmutation of the basic elements of nature. So it is said that we need a philosopher's stone to begin with, and also a universal solvent that is called the alkahest. These two elements, in combination with a higher triad of elements, can produce that transmutation. What are those elements? They are mercury, sulfur, and salt. And with those three elements that are put in action by the philosopher's stone and the alkahest, you can then transform the four elements of nature, the classic ones that we know by these symbols here: fire, air, water, and earth. Well, we can also see those elements of alchemy with different terminology and different symbols. For example, the classic transmutation of metals. In that transmutation, or in that transformation, we also have the same order of elements. Two higher and superior elements that use an upper triangle to transmute four more dense elements. So it is said that to do alchemy, or to produce gold in this case, you need to start with a particle of gold itself. Then, through the means of another noble higher metal, that is silver, you can then transmute mercury, copper, and iron. And then you can transmute or transform the four lower elements that are tin, lead, earth itself, and the impurities of the earth. The third group of symbolic elements are associated with the cosmic forces. This system was created in a time when humankind didn't have the telescope. So it was formulated using the visible cosmic bodies of the solar system. So we start with the sun, and then the moon. And the sun and the moon are seen as the two driving forces of the alchemical transmutation. And here's the symbol of the sun. Then the moon. And with the sun and the moon, you could transmute the 7 planets. And the 7 planets are, of course, Mercury itself, again. Then Venus and Mars. The 4 other cosmic bodies are Jupiter, and here's the thunder of Zeus. Then Saturn, the trident of Saturn, Earth, and the 7th one can be seen as a mythical cosmic body that is alluded to as Lilith, or the fallen Earth. Which symbol is this one? Again, we have those 3 groups of symbols. But friends, all this indicate that if alchemy is an inner science, that we should find those very same elements in ourselves, in the human alchemical laboratory. So what are those elements? The universal teaching and also the teachings of the modern Rosy Cross indicate that the philosopher's stone or gold or even the sun can be understood as the spirit spark that is the true center of the human being. The spirit spark can then connect itself with the human consciousness, transforming it into a spiritual consciousness. Those two elements, they can transform the triangle of the human consciousness: our mental life, our emotional life, and our will, our desires, the driving force of our actions. And through the spiritual spark that manifests itself through a spiritual consciousness, we have the transmutation of the three elements of our consciousness, and then those elements, they transform our four vehicles: our mental body, our astral body, our etheric body, and our physical body. So what is the process that can actually transmute all those elements inside of us? The alchemical process is formulated in four main steps. Those four main steps can be seen in the names of the alchemical process itself, or in characters or aspects of many different traditions. And to facilitate your understanding, we'll try to share with you some of those connections. We can start with the four classical phases of alchemy, and we'll use the traditional names. The names are Nigredo, Albedo, Citrinitas, and Rubedo. You can also associate those four phases with four mythical birds: the raven, the swan, the peacock, and the phoenix. But those four classic phases of alchemy you can also see, for example, in the ancient traditions of the past, like in Egypt, where you have the four gods, or the four mythical figures as Ptah, then Ramses, Osiris, and Horus. And if we look at the Christian tradition, not through a religious eye, but through an esoteric understanding, we'll see the four main characters of the gospel as also indicating the four phases of alchemy. Here we allude to Herod, to John the Baptist, to Jesus, and to Christ. And in the modern teachings of the spiritual school, we recognize those four aspects of our transformation, or the inner transmutation, as self-knowledge, as a new consciousness, as a spiritual consciousness, and as the manifestation of the new spiritual human being. To conclude the association of those four classic phases of alchemy, we can understand also that the main objects that we find in the alchemical lab can be directly associated with these four phases. That we'll try to associate with the inner alchemical lab are the Athanor, that is the alchemical oven, that we'll try to represent by the fire itself. And here we honestly trust that we'll be able to see fire, okay? The other one are the retorts, those objects that are used for us to put the alchemical substance, it's heated, it's boiled, and then it is condensed. Then the alchemical spirals, where this alchemical substance is gradually and constantly purified and transformed to finally precipitate on the fourth group of objects that are the crucibles, where the alchemical substance, the transmuted alchemical substance, can then be accumulated and stored. So how do we put all those elements together? Well, we told you there is a process. What is the process? First of all, the fire of the Athanor must burn in us. In other words, the fire of the spirit, of the spiritual spark, must be a flame in the innermost of ourselves. This flame can transform physically the first retort, the first aspect of the triangle of our consciousness, that is our heart. Our heart becomes a resonance box of this fire, just like an amplifier of this fire. And then the heart, united with the spiritual spark, can then transform the second retort of our consciousness, that is our mind or our head. For the first time, we are going to feel the unity between our heart and our head, that were unified by the spirit spark, that is the new driving force that is flowing through them. And then the third aspect of our consciousness, symbolically speaking, the third retort, that is our will be transformed. And then, for the first time, the triangle of our consciousness will be able to function in harmony and balanced, having in its center the spirit spark, that is the true center of the human awareness or consciousness. That is what allows us to manifest the third group of objects, that is the spiral. The spiral is the gradual and growing open space that will start to manifest itself within ourselves, taking the whole space of our being. And this spiral will open this space so that the power of the spirit spark, united in the triangle of our consciousness, can finally allow the spirit to come inside and unite itself with the spirit spark in the center. That is what will allow us to start the transmutation of the four crucibles, that will start with a higher aspect of our minds, then our astral life, our etheric being, and finally our physical manifestation. And that's how we see the symbol of the school, representing this alchemical process, with the spirit spark active in the center. The three aspects of our consciousness, the three sides of the triangle, of the heart, the head, and our life, or symbolically our hands, can be drawn again in harmony and in balance. With the center, the spirit spark, and the new triangle, a new open space can be created in our microcosm, represented by the circle of eternity, the circle of the human microcosm, that is touched and unified again with the spirit. And inside this totally new being, the transmutation, or the alchemical transfiguration of the four vehicles, the mental, the astral, the etheric, and the physical body, can happen, can manifest itself in this new, powerful and clear square. That is the reason why we use this symbol in the spiritual school, because this symbol represents the achievement of this alchemical transmutation process. Thank you.